Okay. And there we go. Alright, we're back for some more live streaming, ladies and gentlemen. Which is pretty much all I'm going to be doing for a little while, just because there was a recent death in the family that's hit me kind of hard. So yeah, pretty depressing. That's not like it's my grandfather or mother or grandmother or anything. If they were the ones that had fallen to the ravages of time, I wouldn't be making a live stream, that's for sure. But it was still somebody pretty close, so yeah. Pretty sad, but, well, just gotta keep pushing it right on through. So what are we playing today, ladies and gentlemen? Why, it's Scythe X. And actually, I need to turn down the sound on my headset here. But yeah, so you got Scythe X. This was a MegaWad I stumbled across around the same time as Bloodstained. And Bloodstained was pretty good. And this one I liked even more because this is a tech-based styled mod, which I'm a big fan of. That's pretty much my favorite type of Doom level, with the hell levels just being kind of boring and browned. And I am sorry to hear that ever in uni. I can't imagine what that must feel like. Ugh. And do the evolution. I'm doing as okay as can be. Had a recent death in the family. Kind of sad. Well, kind of sad. Really sad. And sure, bring the questions on, so long as they're not particularly annoying. But I'll turn that down again. But yeah, death is something I'm not a big fan of. Oh, ever ennui, there we are. But, yeah. Death is never something that's good. And for me, most of the deaths that have occurred in my time have been people I haven't really been that close to or even really saw that often. This is the first time someone's died that I actually saw on an almost daily basis. So it's something that I'm having to really come to terms with. This isn't somebody that's like super close, but it's still just, it hits you there. And thank you, Suddy. I always appreciate anyone supporting me on Patreon. But ultimately, you know, death is a part of life, but nobody likes to hear that. Especially me! Ugh. So yeah, that's why there's not going to be that much new content for a little while. I'm just kind of processing all the emotions and things of that nature. But ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, some positive things have been happening over the past couple of weeks. I started watching The Expanse, the TV show of the novel. Well, the novel. I don't know if the novel was called Expanse, or if that was just the series name. I read the first novel in that series, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't as good as the show. That's one of those instances where the novel is actually better than the show. I mean, where the show is better than the novel. I'm so used to saying, yeah, the novel's better. No, in this instance, the show's a little bit better. I like the characters in the show a little bit more than the characters in the novel. In fact, they have Thomas Jane playing Miller. Miller's sort of a burnt-out cop. And I like Thomas Jane's portrayal a little bit better than the novel characters. Because the novel character just felt kind of annoying. Whereas the show, he actually feels a little less whiny. At least that's what I get. But I've not read any of the other novels in that series. I actually thought that Season 1 was going to cover primarily the first novel. But it does not. It actually covers most of it. And when I was seeing the series season finale for the first season, I was like, okay, there's no way they could put all that into like 12 minutes. So I was like, okay, it's going to be in Season 2. The newest Doom game, did you like it? And what would you give the game? Would you take out? I did like it. I reviewed that, actually. I would take out the constant bloody arenas. Those get a little annoying after a while. I can imagine if you lose a relative, it would make you a bit difficult to be around. Because even though this person, I didn't know them that well, after this guy died, I was just kind of like, I was kind of difficult to be around myself. And things are going as okay as they can be. William Hall, recent death in the family. Kind of trying to get over that. And hello, Daniel. You've been in every single one of these now. Let's just be waiting on your edge of the seat to see more GeneralLotz greatness. But yeah, death. Fuck death. But then again, you know, you got... That's kind of an interesting thing, though. The whole concept of immortality is one that has been explored in media a lot. And not necessarily being a good thing, but then again, you don't want to die. But then living forever may not be the best thing either, so it's like you don't have much of a choice, do you? And hello, Armored Gamer. And we like fucking multitasking around here. I'm actually running this stream at 48 frames per second, trying to compensate for my not necessarily amazingly fast internet. Although this internet's a lot faster than it used to be. And thank you, Snappy Ninja. We're pushing it on through, as difficult as it may be. The guy was a big fan of Star Wars Heroes. He loved that game, and I have no idea what kind of game it is. I just know it's some kind of multiplayer game that he played all the bloody time. He was like a member of some kind of cartel. He even had like fucking flowcharts on how he was gonna play the game. It's like, I don't care about games that much. I'm not gonna write a fucking flowchart. Well, I mean, it's only been 2 months. Eventually, do I only play PC games? No, I do play console games, just not that often. If you see, you'll see a lot of console games in my reviews as well. But it's only 2 months. Give it time. Give it time. I don't know, immortality, like, there's so much to learn, but you don't want to just get set in your ways either. I don't know. When it comes to my family, I don't want them to die. I don't even want to think about them dying. I don't know what I'd do without any of my family members, you know? Like my grandfather. It's like, ugh. I don't even like to think about it. I don't like to talk about it. Because he's the oldest one of all of us. And I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I'm going to do, you know? Ugh. Because he's such a big part of my life. You know, if he were gone, I just... Let me put it this way. If ever he does unexpectedly die, yeah, there's not going to be any videos for, like, a year or more. I can just tell you that. Because, like, damn. Ugh. But that's your death, you know? It's annoying. Annoying. Will I ever play or review the remaster of Turok 1 or 2? I'm not entirely... yeah, he actually is survived by a few people. They're pretty broken up about it. As you would expect. Turok 1 and 2, I'm not sure when I'm going to get to that. The thing is, like, I already said all I was going to say about it. All I could really say about the remasters is, it's the same game, but it's got a higher screen resolution. And there's a few other minor changes here and there, like some of the levels are different, but I just haven't had the desire to go back to it. You know, it's like I've spent so much time on Turok 1 and 2 on the N64. Oh, crap! Grenade. On the N64, it's like, I don't really want to go through it again. There's not much else to really add. Oh, the stream fell. The stream. Oh, that's what you meant. I thought you meant something else. Bunch of computer opponents. Ah, it's very nice. Very nice indeed. There is a sort of GoldenEye port. There's that remake of GoldenEye, although I have not played it. I think there is a PC version of that, but you can't get it anymore. Well, you can acquire it in other ways, but I think all those were taken off of Steam though. And I've not seen any of the Turok mods. I need to look at that. I did play the original Turok the Dinosaur Hunter PC port years and years ago. And I did like an aborted Let's Play for that. But I never actually finished it, just because that game is very difficult to Let's Play. Wolfen Turok 3D Fossil. Huh. Well, I'll take a look at that. I've played the Source remake of GoldenEye 007. I used to play that a lot, actually. Not too long ago. It was over a year ago now, but recently, more recent than a lot of other games. I think I might live stream Call of Duty 4 because I recently dug that out of the game box. I might do that at some point. Although then of course the X-Backs will probably explode because you remember the last time I tried to use Chasm the Rift. I'm aware that it exists. If it's the game I'm thinking of, I have it in the DOS folder, but I have not really done much with it. And I've been meaning to do something on the Turok comics because I have a couple in my collection. AVP2 isn't on Steam because it's there's licensing issues. I think Fox owns the license and WB owns the game engine. It's something annoying like that. It's abandonware now. You can pretty much... all you gotta do is search for it on the interwebs, and then you will be able to acquire it. Because, yeah, there's literally no way to really get it re-released at any time, because you know how corporations are. And I do use a capture card, but I forget what it is. It's like an AverMedia something or other that I got many, many years ago. It works quite well, although the amusing thing is I still use Fraps to record off of it, because it's a million times easier than using the inbuilt recording software. Let's see, where is that? Oh, that's that Quake thing, okay. Now wait a minute, is that a modern Quake-style shooter, or is that something else? And yeah, there's a lot more PC ports for, or a lot more console ports for PC games. Just look at Minecraft. And I do my best to talk to the fans, because like if all I'm doing is just playing the game and not looking at the chat, it's like what's the point? I could just do a Let's Play. GTX 1070. I don't know, get whatever you can afford, that's what I say. I do not have Star Trek Elite Force 1 and 2. I had it for the PS... I had Elite Force 1 for the PS2, but I never really played those games, surprisingly enough. Yeah, well, what's funny is I tried to use OBS with the capture card, but it didn't work with it. It gave me some kind of HDMI error. So, yeah. Oh, I know that feeling. When you have a whole bloody... cart full of components and you just don't want to spend that kind of money, but no. Let's see. I have not played the first two Fallout games. I've tried playing them and failed immensely at all of them. Well, if you can't afford it, I say just get what you can afford, then get it later. I don't know. I got the RX 480 because I could afford it. Hell yeah. Tough guy stubble. You gotta look rugged. It reminds me of Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory, where he made like some sort of synthetic beard. And then there was that Mr. T clone. Those were the days. I was just thinking about, god damn it, I was just thinking about Dexter's Laboratory today. Because somebody mentioned to me that they had a potato camera that made me think of that little light that Dexter creates out of a potato. No, he powers the light with the potato. I'm not sure if that's gonna, if those two games are on Steam. I would doubt it. I once saw Elite Force 2 at a half-price bookstore for $30. I did not pay that much for that game, though, because it was a used copy. I imagine you could get that on eBay for far cheaper. Half-price books had gone kind of crazy on its games, or it did the last time I was in there. $794? Yeah, I would not pay. I would put it this way: there's no graphics card in the world good enough for me to spend $800 on a card. When I spent $250 on this, on the RX 480, I about had a heart attack. Let's see. Yeah, I would like to see a remake with a continuation of the story, but it'll never happen. I think the stream is probably going to last about 2 hours, maybe 1, depending on how much energy I have. The last couple have barely been an hour. It's just dealing with all the emotions of people being dead, and, well, the person being dead and all the rest. I just haven't really been that motivated, but we'll see. $800 on a graphics card! Well, you won't have to get another one for a long bloody time, so I guess there's that. 600 bucks! 600! I would never be able to do that. I just couldn't. It's like, I do not like spending money. I like spending no more than I absolutely need to. That's why I used the Nook Color for years upon years. It's like, well, it reads books. In fact, I just recently got, for free actually, a RCA Viking tablet. It was free. I'm gonna root it and use it, so it'll work. I'll see if I can't acquire them at some point. EVGA is not bad. I actually got 2 of those. I got one as a fan donation. It was good. I enjoyed it. It worked well. I wouldn't want to have to pay for it. Call of Duty. I'm not getting Call of Duty World War II because I probably won't have the money for it. We shall see if it's actually any good. But when I spend $80 on a game, it better be a game I really, really want. And the game I really, really want is, of course, Wolfenstein. Oh, goddammit, that's the door. Is Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. That game I really want to play. I know they've censored the swastika and all the rest, and are probably going to SJWize it, but you know what? It's Wolfenstein, goddammit. I've been playing that since I was a mere 3 years old, so gotta keep going with it. You know, I've never did a Crossfire card. I never had any desire to do that. Turok 3 might get remastered. Hard to say. Oh, if you actually do game design, okay, well then that makes sense. I thought they were just doing it for like basic gaming. Well, I live in the US, so it's gonna be 80 bucks. Or maybe that's only for the console version. Maybe it'll be less for the PC version. I don't know. I can't imagine trying to run 2 cars at the same time. Well, hunting Nazis. Depending on... Well, hunting real Nazis is probably for the best. But for some, anything and anyone can be a Nazi, as we know from certain current events. Although in all reality, I find the term Nazi to be kind of silly at times, though. Because you can only really be a Nazi if you remember the actual Nazi party, which doesn't exist anymore. So, yeah, it's kind of a misnomer. Is it not? Well, still, 60 bucks ain't cheap, though. So, let's have to see. $800! Graphics cards. You know, I find that funny, William Hall. You're probably the only one who's watched the Star Trek Federation review, because damn. The book reviews nobody watches, but they used to take so much time and effort to do. Star Trek Federation really is one of the best of the Star Trek EU books, even though it doesn't really fit in any kind of timeline. Because that book came out before there was any sort of codified Star Trek EU anyway. It was really quite good, though. I mean, it's what First Contact wanted to be, but didn't really succeed at. But when I say that, First Contact wasn't a bad movie, but compared to Federation, it's not as good. And I think, honestly, you could turn Federation into a movie, and it would have been way cheaper than First Contact. You just would have had it on... Basically, what's funny about Federation is what you could have done with that. Is you could have cut out the past plot entirely and just had it set on both the Enterprise D, the big D, and the Enterprise 1701. Oh, you can have it on the Enterprise A. You could, like, change the story around and still reuse some of the old sets. It would have worked better than First Contact did. Another TI. Run them SLI. ISOize. Use correct. Oh, okay. This is all tech stuff that... $230? Yeah, that's pretty much all I would ever pay. But then again, I don't do high-level graphics processing, so I wouldn't need anything more powerful than what I have. And for the longest time... Really, I don't replace my graphics hardware nearly as often as some do. It's because I can turn the graphics options down. Although with the RX 480 right now, I'm able to run Prey 2017, like, maxed out with... There's a few frame rate drops here and there, but nothing too annoying. So I'm happy with that. The only thing I find annoying is how poorly programmed Dark Souls 3 is, to where it doesn't run at 60 FPS, no matter what bloody system you have. $700 laptop. Yeah, the big problem with some of the Mirror Universe stuff is the fact that there's multiple mirror universes, which is a bit amusing. The mainline mirror universe, the one that actually leads off from In a Mirror Darkly on Enterprise, I think is my favorite, just because it actually ends. And it ends really well. One Star Trek book I highly recommend above all others, provided you've read the other Mirror Universe books, is Rise Like Lions. It's really good. It's one of my favorite books because it actually is the conclusion of a plot line that actually is positive. Star Trek, I don't know if there's any more Star Trek EU books, like Star Trek as in the mainline Prime universe going on, but that universe got so depressing with the Borg invasion and all the rest, and that's not a spoiler. Everybody knows about the goddamn Borg invasion. Dark Souls 3. I gotta get back to that. I kinda got bored with that after a while. Go Trek and Felix. Hell yeah. Sadly, that series ended with the Warhammer Fantasy series. When they went to Age of Sigmar. Go Trek and Felix is still probably my favorite fantasy book series, and that's what got me into fantasy to begin with. I never really liked fantasy until I read that. recently I picked up a copy of Ice Forged. Looks pretty good. It was a series that was described to me as a post-apocalyptic fantasy series. So I was like, you know, that sounds original. I'll give it a shot. HIS 200. Do not know what that is. And I don't like to list off the number of firearms I own, just because you never know who's listening. So yeah. Let's see. Vegas 64. For some reason I read that as Viagra 64. 300 watts for one bloody graphics card. Well, the Terran Empire was bound to fall anyway, and really it just sort of is like a diet Imperium of Man. What's funny is I have a 700 watt power supply, and I barely use that amount of wattage. So it's I don't consider that a waste because I got it on sale. So yeah, but I can't imagine I would need anything bigger than a 700 watt supply. Although once I wanted to get a 1000 watt power supply just because I could, but thankfully my frugality prevailed. It's like, it's a 1000 watt power supply. What would you use 1000 watts for? It would be cool. I suppose those things get hot. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I have my PC runs fairly cool. And then that's because I got a shitload of fans in it, and I actually have a more ventilated area than I once did. A much more ventilated area than I once did, indeed. But talking about massive amounts of guns, I don't have a gun collection nearly as large as the people from InRange. Ian has like multiple bloody Berthiers. I've never even seen a Berthier in real life. Although if I saw a Berthier for only like a couple $100, I'd snap that bitch up real fast. Because it's a Berthier. It's a cool rifle, you know? And French guns are interesting. Very interesting. They're very much, well, I should say French military rifles are very interesting. They're kind of behind the curve technologically, but I like them, but I like that about them, you know? They actually went to the 5-round magazine in 1915, or is that 1916? I can't remember. It's either 1915 or 16, when everyone had already gone to a 5-round magazine long before then. But hey, you know what? They thought that the tube magazine was still in vogue, which I like, because I like the tube magazine. And yeah, 40K, I actually read the most recent book as of July, Dark Imperium. I like the fact that Rowboat Girly Man is back, because it's a cool concept to see that one of the big good guys is back. I know that the rules have been fucked over from some people that I know that actually play the game, but I like it from a storytelling standpoint. I'm going to review that book once I finally get both the time and energy to do so. Kirk, Picard, and Sulu. Sulu, I have not read any of the Sulu books, but I am aware of them. Oh, yes. Shatner did pretty good there. He wasn't nearly as, he didn't overact nearly as much as people would say he did. And yeah, Patrick Stewart was a badass. Although my favorite captain by far is still Sisko. He's just that cool. Oh yeah, Shattered Universe. I have, although I have not played it yet. And I think you mean Borderlands, the pre-sequel. I thought it was pretty good. I kind of like the zero-G or the low-G environments. Vengeance of the Blood Ravens. Man, I got so many negative comments about that because I said they were the Blood Angels. How am I supposed to keep it straight? There's multiple Blood chapters. I watch Forgotten Weapons a great deal, actually. I find that to be a very, very awesome channel. I didn't find it until fairly late, though. I found it in 2015, but it'd been around long beforehand. I never really watched gun videos until fairly recently as well. I honestly didn't think there were any on YouTube. For the longest time, I thought I was the only gun person, but I guess not, which is very awesome. Very awesome indeed. No idea what anyone's talking about. I feel like that all the time. Get there late. Borderlands 3. Oh, you weren't just calling pre-sequel Borderlands 3. I don't know when Borderlands 3 is gonna come out, but I can almost guarantee you Duke's gonna show up in it. Duke just shows up in way too many things that he shouldn't be in, like Bulletstorm. I mentioned this in another stream. It's like, why is Duke Nukem in Bulletstorm? That's not his game. You can't just shoehorn Duke in there like he's some sort of fading 70s star. Next we'll have Duke Nukem and Laugh-In. Laugh-In the video game. I only know what Laugh-In is because there was some kind of documentary on that I saw once. And also, apparently Spider-Man was in Laugh-In where he called people yo-yos. Oh no, you don't want to be too risque there, Spidey. Next, he might call them a pog. Oh no! Although actually, pogs mean different things now. So you never know. Oh yeah, Hickok 45. I also watched that guy as well. The Colbury, the 2mm pistol. There's guns that Ian on Forgotten Weapons has reviewed that I never even had heard of. You finally learned something off of YouTube for once. I really like how Project Brutality actually gives us 3 different Mancubuses. And probably the size of a bus. The poison one I think is by far the worst because that poison damage likes to linger. Also, I find this weird about some of these Doom wads here, where you jump into a teleporter and die, but then move on to the next level. And there, of course, is the John Romero cameo. And man, that guy had a head of hair. Star Trek Legacy, I got that for the 360, but I've not played it on the PC yet. Steel Battalion. Hey, they had that on the Connect. I forgot what that was. Whammy Game Show. I don't know what that is. Reviews in the past. I don't know. I don't want to. When you go back to old things that you've done, you don't want to get that George Lucas syndrome where you want to change everything. For the longest time, I hated Alien Through the Gun because I thought it was too cheesy in it. But I've now come to embrace the cheese. I think there is one major game that I would re-review at some point, and that would be Alien Trilogy. I was way too hard on it. And these days, I like the game a great deal. Whereas back in the day, I just couldn't do it. I basically just complained about it the entire review. And the complaints, while valid, weren't really necessary. Because, yeah, the game had a few elements to it that weren't very good, but, well, it was a FPS on the PlayStation, and it was as good as they could make it back then. And it's still an Aliens first-person shooter where you play as Ripley. How many of those do you get? I think I may actually touch on Alien Trilogy at some point in the Alien Resurrection review, whenever that is. I'm not sure when that will be. Star Trek Online. I have played that a great deal. I got up to level 50. I think I got to level 50. I don't remember what my final ship was, though, and I just stopped playing it after a while. Let's see. OG Xbox 40 button controller. I do not know what the DOS version brings to the table that the PS1 version doesn't. It might have better graphics. The frame rate I found was okay when I played it on the original disc. I might try the DOS version at some point. Just have to see. But I would like to re-review the PlayStation version. And then, of course, there's the rather infamous review I did many years ago that's long since been taken down, and that, of course, was the review of Batman Arkham Asylum. For some reason, that game just rubbed me the wrong way. That sounds suggestive. And I have no idea why I hated it. I have no idea why I hated that game back in the day. I played it recently and really enjoyed it. I really do not know why I didn't like it. I mean, I can see the review, and the review I make some points, but ultimately it's like, I don't know, it was just out of my head, I suppose. Sovereign class. Not a bad class of ships. One ship I would love to have in that particular game, but you have to pay for it, and I do not like to pay for free-to-play games, would be the Excelsior class. I've always liked that particular class of ship. I also like how we have a space station that is racing through space. Why did it say it's a spaceship? Why is it a space station doing it? It's like, I just don't know. Let's see. Let me read the chat here. Yeah, the Excelsior class, I think you have to pay for that. And this is Scythe X, and I'm playing it with Project Brutality. Because this is actually Project Brutality version 2.5, 2.3. I have multiple versions of Project Brutality. I think at one time this was the latest version, but they might have come out with a newer version in the intervening time. I haven't looked it up in a while. And this brings a few things to the table that are pretty good. They've changed the reticle here and there. Each incremental change is pretty good. And Project Brutality is still by far my favorite of the Doom gameplay enhancement wads. There's just something about it that I like more than even Brutal Doom. Let's see. Check the chat again. 500 Zen coins. That's like 20 bucks. I'm not paying no $20 for a ship. Cause like I just can't do it. I can't. 2080 stuff. I've read Rogue Trooper, some of Judge Dredd, and I'm going to read Nemesis the Warlock at some point. And I've never even heard of High Noon Drifter. Never even heard of it. So no, I have not played it. But it does sound like it's some sort of a Western game. I do intend to do an Old West month. Shit! No, you... Yes, take the Super Steroid Doom Guy. I do intend to do a Old West month. I was going to do that sometime soon, but my whole schedule's been thrown off from the death that has occurred, annoyingly enough. So yeah, I don't know when that's going to be. The Old West month is going to have Gun, Red Dead Redemption, and... oh, what's that game? Call Juarez Gunslinger. Gun's pretty good. It's basically, as Yahtzee would say, Grand Theft Horse 3. It's basically Grand Theft Auto 3, but with, well, horses. It's not bad. It's very primitive in comparison to Red Dead Redemption. And Red Dead Redemption is a damn good game, although I've not finished the zombie one. It's actually kind of annoying. I heard when I first got the Xbox 360 Slim, and the Xbox 360 Slim, if it falls on its side, it'll destroy the game. I was like, okay, well that's never gonna happen. It happened, and it destroyed my copy of zombie whatever it is. It's the zombie mod, but not the zombie mod, the zombie version of Red Dead. Well, the Reaver Warbird isn't bad, but Star Trek Nemesis, I think, is definitely one of the worst Star Trek movies, though. Just because it did not feel... None of those TNG movies felt like the show. They felt like... Well, except for First Contact. First Contact, I will defend. All the bloody Star Trek TNG movies felt like crap. And they really did. They just weren't very good. They felt like cheap Hollywood movies, which I guess they were. And yeah, it just did not feel like it didn't feel right. They felt very dumbed down. And Star Trek Insurrection, don't even get me started on that. That movie was complete shit from start to finish. I mean, it just and the worst part is that movie was very much a tease in many respects. Because like it started out, they were in space, and then they had to land on the bloody hippie planet. No, that's not even the hippie planet. The hippie planet from TOS was better. It was like the annoying smug... So basically, Planet California. So they land on Planet California. We don't like technology, but we're all clean. We have plenty of food and all the rest. And like the California aliens just really annoyed me to no end. And the Excelsior class is quite good indeed. I have a model of the Enterprise B, and I have a model of the Excelsior, but I do not have... Oh yeah, this is one thing the Project Brutality, this version adds. This, of course, is inspired by Doom 2016, where in multiplayer you can turn into the Revenant. And this is pretty cool, but you can die a lot easier in this form, I think, because you're a much bigger target, and these rockets aren't the best, in my opinion. Actually, let's save, since this is a fairly large level here. Check the chat. The J.J. Abrams films aren't bad because they're actually competent movies. If they called it Space Trek, people might like it more. But I still was a big fan of Trek 11. I liked Trek 11 a lot. And Trek 12 was also good. Yeah, it was just a rehash of Wrath of Khan, but they did it well. It was an entertaining movie. Have not seen Beyond yet, though. I played Red Dead Revolver once. Years and years ago. Well, you know, I'd like to have seen more of Kirk and Picard working together, you know, like, on a spaceship, because, you know, it's Star Trek, not Desert Trek. Generations was the first Star Trek movie I saw in theaters, actually. I can still vaguely remember doing that as a kid. And you know what? It just doesn't feel right, though. It really doesn't. Oh, I'm glad you like Star Trek The Return. Nobody watched that either, and damn was that a hard review to do. Star Trek The Return, the best of the Shatnerverse novels. The Shatnerverse is very interesting just because it has a much more cynical view of Star Trek, where, like, Kirk doesn't even really like the Federation anymore, and I'm not really sure why. It's like, what did the Federation do to Kirk? But, well. The Return was good just because it was Kirk and Picard doing what they do best. Did I pick up that bloody thing? No, I don't think I did. I took a shitload of damage from that Mancubus. I think there's another Paladin somewhere. I don't see it. I just need to transform back into my Marine form. That's enough, Revenant. Come back. Well, you know, they had to redo TOS just because it was marketable. And, you know, they didn't do too bad when it came to making them young again. Really, Carl Urban is spot on for Dr. McCoy, so I don't really have a problem with that. Yeah, they didn't really get Kirk right, but yeah, what are you gonna do? Spock was still cool. Zachary Quinto did a pretty good job with him. Uhura was decent enough. I did like the little squabbling, you know, teenage-style romance between Spock and Uhura, but whatever. You take what you can get, I suppose. And reviewing games is not an easy prospect, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, but you know what? More power to you. It just, get ready for a lot of tedium, hence why I haven't done Quake 4 yet, just because I've not been in the mood in the slightest for hours upon hours upon hours of editing. Really though, the technology for reviewing stuff is a lot more, it's a lot easier now, because most graphics cards come with recording software. Whereas back in the day you had to get separate ones, or get separate recording software. But it still is tedious, takes a long time, and it's very... The hardest part of actually getting popular on YouTube, at least, is getting exposure, because there's millions of... Maybe not millions, but there's many, many reviewers out there. The big ones really do monopolize a lot of the views, which is as you would expect. So it's really hard to actually succeed, but it still is quite satisfying to do, nonetheless. And I just got set on fire. Let's see. Oh, he was in the Doom film. I've not read Turnabout, the Predator novel, and I have not seen War for Planet of the Apes. I haven't seen any of the Planet of the Apes remakes, just because I've never really cared that much. I guess it's probably not bad, but I couldn't tell you. And Quake 4, you know, it's bland by Quake standards, but by modern standards, it's actually pretty good. And I mentioned that in the review, because I've already written the script. I actually wrote the script the day the person died, actually, because I found out about that particular death later in the day. So yeah, that wasn't an enjoyable thing. But yeah, Quake 4 I thought was good now, but back then I would have agreed that yeah, it is really, really bland. So, and yeah, you do need a good CPU for video production, because most of that editing software is very CPU intensive. AVP versus the Terminator. Oh man, I have that. I have the trade paperback for that. And you know what? I thought it was pretty good. And it actually concludes Clone Ripley's plot. And you know what? It's not bad. I mean, of all the duels, as they call them, it was pretty good. You know, especially compared to JLA versus the Predator. Because, I mean, that makes no sense whatsoever anyway. And I always figured that Terminator actually existed in the same universe as Alien and Predator, just because some of the Alien versus Predator comics in the future, they mention Hyperdyne, which sounds a lot like Cyberdyne, and Hyperdyne manufactured androids. So it's like, well, I mean, that sounds the same. It probably is. And it also makes sense from another perspective, because where did they get a hyperdrive by, like, 2030? Well, Skynet invented it, and the Resistance, you know, used it. And by using the hyperdrive, they were able to easily rebuild Earth, or something along those lines. That's what I always figured, anyway. But I doubt that would actually be canon, because that would be too awesome, in my opinion. Let's see, Ryzen. That's actually a pretty good CPU. I don't think AVP versus T was trash. I've read a lot worse comics than that. A lot worse. At least it was... Let me put it this way. The plot made sense. The characters weren't too bad. And it did what it set out to do. And it can't fault him for that. Let me use that. Why don't I set myself on fire? That'll work. That'll scare him. The Prometheus comics, I have not read that. And the original Quake is good. I would like to have seen... I don't think Blade Runner and Alien could actually exist in the same universe because they both do different things. But you never know. You never know. And yeah, Quake did a good job with that whole Lovecraft thing. It would have been nice if Quake 5 could have gone back to that. And Quake 4 leaves itself open for a sequel that never happened and never will happen. But you could have had it where, you know, Matthew Caine, he has to go fight Space Cthulhu versus John Mullins. Now that'd be nice. That should be a mod, but well. Quake Champions is something I've had no interest in just because it's multiplayer only. I would have liked a Quake with an actual plot. Actually, that's one of the things about Quake 3, is Quake 3 was multiplayer only, and it had a plot. You just had to read the instruction manual for it. I read that instruction manual for both Quake 3 and Quake 2 multiple times because it was really quite interesting. I don't know, I might put it on, might go on Twitch at some point. It's just a lot easier with YouTube. Quake. Yeah, Quake, it's always supposed to be multiplayer, but I never really cared that much about multiplayer in my time. Alien Covenant, have not seen it yet. Alex Jones versus the Predator. That would be an interesting fight. I don't know, would he annoy him to death? Once again, Alien versus Predator versus Jar Jar Binks, would he annoy them to death? I just don't know. I think that's one thing the face hugger would not want a face hug. I'm just saying. Ugh, Jar Jar. You know what Jar Jar is supposed to be? He's basically supposed to be a more kid-friendly form of Chewbacca. And they kind of missed the point on everything. Because Chewbacca was cool, and Jar Jar's just, well, super lame. It's like, I can think of no character more lame than Jar Jar Binks. N64 multiplayer. You know, I never played the N64 multiplayer until years after the N64 had been out. Like, I'm talking like 2010. I actually played that multiplayer for the first time, and you know what? It actually had some staying power. I played, what was it? The World Is Not Enough, because for some reason my copy of GoldenEye didn't work. I played that multiplayer with a couple of people, and you know what? They still enjoyed it, despite them being younger than I was. Because you know what? World Is Not Enough is not a bad game. Nobody talks about it, but it's just as good as GoldenEye, if not a little bit better in some aspects. Just nobody really cared about it. Now that'd be hilarious. And yeah, Chewbacca should be kid-friendly, but he'd be like, well, you know, he did like to, you know, pull people's arms out of their socket, even though I never saw that. And, you know, I didn't play Mario Kart until years later as well. Let's see. Yeah, that is one thing about Doom 2016 that I did find somewhat annoying, is that they really do like that glory kill system. And not having played GoldenEye on the N64, I couldn't tell you how bad the frame rate is. Unreal Tournament, I've played that recently. I did not play it back in the day, but I played Unreal Tournament 1, 2003 or 4. Both were quite good. Unreal Tournament 1 is still really holds up, despite its age. Unreal Tournament 1 is something I didn't play multiplayer until like 2015. So it goes to show you that graphics don't really mean that much so long as the gameplay is sound. I do find it funny. It's set in the future. In the future, and yet they're basically just using a scoped AR-15 for the sniper rifle. I find that quite amusing. We have phased plasma pulse rifles, but the AR-15, it still clings on. Really, I've come to appreciate the AR-15 more now that I've actually seen a number of videos on it. I'd always thought that it was just kind of, like, it was an okay rifle, but it wasn't really that good or wasn't as good as the AK. Now that I've seen the in-range stuff on it, I definitely have more respect for it than I did, that is for sure. Best current FPS game? I would have to say, yeah, Prey 2017 doesn't count because it's not really an FPS, it's more of a Bioshock style game. I'd say Doom 2016. I'd say that's pretty good. And I've not played Battlefield 1. Just haven't really had any desire to play it. Well, okay then, William Hall. You don't sound high. You know, I still need to play Killing Floor 2. The AR Sniper's chambered in 50 Beowulf. Not surprising. Not surprising at all. And, you know, that's the thing about Battlefront, or Battlefield multiplayer. It's always the multiplayer, never the single player. For me, it's just, with all the multiplayer games out there, I wouldn't spend $60 on a multiplayer game. If it doesn't have a good campaign, I don't really care. Combat Arms. I knew somebody that played that years ago. I think it's some kind of free game, but I've not actually played it. I've been aware of it, though. I haven't had any real desire to play that. I once tried to play Alliance of Valiant Arms, but I could never get it to work. Shite. I will read the chat after I burn them with holy fire. Holy Promethium! Space oil. That's not how you burn them with space oil, but that's basically what Promethium is in 40k. It's space oil. I don't know why... No, I don't even know if it's space oil. It acts more like space diesel in many respects. It's some sort of crystalline thing that you can use as fuel for flamethrowers and vehicles, and for some reason it's very energy rich. But it's basically space oil in all but name. Let's see where we go. Red Orchestra, played it once and never actually played it again. Doom 64, I don't remember the frame rate being bad, but then again, I might not have paid attention to it. And I've not played Doom 64 outside of an emulator in years, so I couldn't tell you. And yeah, it is good to see modern day FPS is going back to you know, actually having a campaign, because for me, if I want to play a multiplayer game, I'll play Counter-Strike. I'm still a big fan of Counter-Strike 1. I played that fairly recently as well. I mean, yeah, the graphics have aged a lot, but there's a Cyber Demon. Let's save. I like how they spawned the Cyber Demon, like, right there. The Counter-Strike still holds up, and I got crushed. I have been crushed! I'll read the chat after I have not died. Well, that failed. 32 whole frames per second. Why not? It's not too bad. Ultimate Doom Visor to work with CDL. Yeah, I'm actually using an older version of the Ultimate Doom Visor here. But I'm not using Xandronum, I'm using GZ Doom. I've not used Xandronum in a long time. I could totally not kill this guy and literally just run to the exit, but I think that would be a bit anticlimactic. Just imagine at the end of Empire Strikes Back, Luke just runs from Darth Vader. It's like, shit, Vader! And he just runs. It's like, wait, you're supposed to fight me! Yeah, well, you're Darth Vader, so like, fuck that. You guys, I'm going home. Never been a big fan of South Park, and yet I still watched it. I find the show unpleasant, and yet I find it just pleasant enough to actually watch. And I've not played any of the South Park games. Be it Stick of Truth or that N64 thing that everyone hates. That I guess was bad. I don't know. I don't know. I just remember vague screenshots. And got him. Okay, I get the Demon Morph rune, but I just finished the whole level, so like, what's the point? Kind of the problem with the power-ups in Doom 2016. I always get them when everyone's already dead. I never even heard of Crack Life. Oh yeah, Brutal Doom 64. I forgot all about that. Omega. I do not know. South Park 64. Oh yeah, that was an FPS. South Park 64. I find that quite amusing, actually, that South Park is that old, that there was even such a thing. Because I think hasn't South Park been around since what, 96? I didn't watch it I did not watch it when it first came out. And it's not like I had, like, my various parents were like, "Oh, you cannot watch the evil South Park." It's like I would have hated that show back then, because I was much less mellow than I am now. Much less mellow. The Revenant must have been very tall, very skinny, and yeah, he probably looked a little bit weird. The Star Wars comic you're thinking of is Star Wars Infinity's Empire Strikes Back, which I thought was, I didn't like the Empire Strikes Back or the Star Wars Infinities. It just didn't, it wasn't as entertaining as I thought it would be, and you kind of, and it wasn't so much that Leia replaced Luke. That wasn't really the big issue with that. It's just they killed off Lando. That's a spoiler. But they killed off Lando, and they killed off Boba Fett. It's like, that's one of the first times in a comic you saw Boba Fett without his helmet. And then they unceremoniously kill him off. Which is like, really? And then Vader dies as well. The best of these Star Wars Infinities, outside of the first one, was Return of the Jedi, where we had good Vader. That's a big spoiler, but once again, it's all non-canon. Still, though, he had good Vader, okay? That is awesome. I'd like to have seen a follow-up of that. And Star Wars Infinity's A New Hope, that whole comic was just amazing. I paid full price for that thing too. I mean, that comic, man, and the ending, I don't want to spoil that one. That was fucking hardcore. That was hardcore right there. You would, no, I didn't expect that to happen. But it was damn good. Too many shotguns. I've heard of Russian Overkill, but I have not actually played it. Hentai Doom. You know, I might do that just for the grins in it, but yeah. But that would get old very fast. Hentai Doom is a funny concept, but it's one of those that gets boring after a while. Did I really just hit? I really did just hit unload by accident. So I'm literally unloading my shotgun at these two bloody cyber barons. I am so dead because, yep, I knew it. I knew it. Let's see, where was I? Doom. Oh, they just had Doom fanfic that had H-Doom in it. I don't know if I'd flip out because of H-Doom. I just think it'd be funny. It's like, somebody spent a lot of time on that. You know? Somebody spent a lot of time on that. And it works! I mean, it's pretty hilarious. You wouldn't expect it, that's for sure. Hold on, how far back am I? Okay, good, I'm not that far back. I don't even remember saving in here. Maybe it auto-saved and I just didn't know it. Perhaps. I think I'm gonna keep going till we run out of levels on here. Because you run out of levels pretty fast. It comes out of nowhere, really. And I remember this level being somewhat annoying to navigate at times. At times, Moonman Doom. I've heard that, but I do not know what that actually is. And yeah, you gotta check all the animations, because why not? Because why not? But it does get old after a while. But I'm not surprised that such a thing exists. What I am surprised at is just how absolutely tame it is compared to what you would expect from the internet these days, that's for sure. Because like, it's very... Hentai Doom is much less out there than you would think. Let's just put it that way. Let's just put it that way. You know the internet, you know it. Meta Doom. I've actually heard of that again, but I have not actually played it. I might stream that, because if it incorporates all the Doom games into one, that might be interesting. Oh/poll. I've seen that. I have not played it, but I find that quite amusing. Indeed. I was gonna shave today, but then just said fuck it. I have one of the 40K comics. I think it's the one where, that particularly famous one where they got a commissar that says, "Drive closer so I can hit him with my sword." At the very least, I know there's a commissar that's in a tank that has a sword. And I think it's a Tau one, where like they're trying to kill the Tau for some reason. But I have not read it in a long, long time. Let's see. The theory that the Marines from Doom 2016 is the same Marines from original Doom. I guess it could work, potentially. Time may flow differently in hell. And yes, it would be nice if there's another Alien vs. Predator game. There is one that's fairly recent, like within the last 5 years, on iOS. Oh, Moonman Doom is... Okay, well now I really gotta check it out. Now I really gotta see it. Because You know, once again, Doom is played by a great many people. It's played by a great many people. So it's not too... Oh, yeah, no, I remember. You had to go over here. And I'm being shot whilst trying to look at the chat at the same time. That's what I've heard, that the Doom 64 Marine might be the same one as the Doom 2016, as the Doom Slayer. Could be. Hard to say all around. Now I can just jump and grab that, but you're actually supposed to go over here and go through the teleporter. I prefer just jumping. Try jumping! That always works in the end. SPV3. I've seen that mentioned a number of times in the streams, but I can't remember what that is at the moment. Yeah, the Stranger mod. I can't... You know, it's funny to look back at that mod. The Stranger mod is a weapon enhancement mod. It's funny to look back at that and think of how impressed I was at that particular thing. It's just like nothing compared to this. Hell, Zero Tolerance is nothing compared to this. But you know, that's what you had back in the day, and we were happy to have it. I would actually like to see the auto pistol from the Stranger added into this game, just because I like both the design and the idea of it. Grab that together, Doom, Final Doom, Solace Dreams. I gotta try to remember all that. Halo 3 multiplayer. I played that a lot. Not necessarily when it came out, but a few years after. It was pretty good. I used to play that every night. Like, from 2010 to 2012, I played that almost every night. It was quite enjoyable. I really enjoyed the Forge, though. When I first got Halo 3, I got Halo 3 when it came out just for the plot, because I was a big fan of the Halo plot. The whole Halo 5 derailing of the franchise notwithstanding. Yeah, I actually played around the Forge a lot. There was one level in particular on Halo 3 The Forge that I went in and put grav lifts in the... no, I put teleporters. That's what I did. I put teleporters in the grav lifts of one of the levels that would teleport you out of the map. And so if you tried to take the grav lift, it would teleport you out of the map. It was hilarious. Oh, that pissed so many people off. But people love that map, though, because it was one extra bit of challenge. Let's see. You know, I've not seen Ghost in the Shell. Postal 2 Paradise Lost. Have not played that, but I have played Postal 2. I have played Postal 2, the base game, though. And yeah, what they did with Cortana, god damn. Like, really. I was hoping, and I know this would seem cheesy. Actually, no, it'd be less cheesy than doing what they did with her. But, like, Cortana becoming evil. No, not Cortana becoming evil. Cortana becoming human to actually, you know, to actually be with the Master Chief, and they find some measure of peace. But no, that couldn't happen. We instead had to have characters going evil. So annoying. So annoying. The battle rifle. Cowboy Bebop. Yep, I saw it back in the day. I've rewatched it on Blu-ray. It's not my favorite anime. My favorite anime is still, of course, Outlaw Star. Absolutely love that particular show. Although there was one anime I watched recently, Ninja Scroll. It's just a OVA, I think. Or just a movie in general. Also quite good. I'm a big fan of sci-fi anime, though. That is my preferred franchise. Oh yeah, that video is long since taken down, though. That I reviewed with Tim PD years upon years ago. Halo Legends. I bought that at Best Buy, actually. It was one of those things, I didn't know it came out. I was like, oh, there it is. There's a lot of stuff I buy at Best Buy randomly if I forget it exists. And I bought that at Best Buy expecting it to be good. It was not. Oh man, I did not like that particular anime at all. And Tim PD and I actually ripped it apart. That review... What's interesting about that particular review is that actually was before you could easily record Skype conversations. You had to use a special program and the audio was complete shit. Like, it was just designed that way. Because they wanted you to buy the full version and it would have better audio, and I was like, fuck that. But we did that completely off the cuff, and then I spent about, I don't know how many hours editing it together to where it sounded like it was actually scripted. I fooled so many people into thinking it was scripted. completely wasn't, though. But I cut out all the ums, uhs, and pauses, and it sounded like we actually had scripted it. I don't think I've seen... I don't remember what the babysitter even looked like. But I liked the package. It wasn't bad. It actually had Master Chef in it. But it didn't make any logical sense for the story, but whatever. And 1337, that was the best one out of the lot. It was actually funny, especially since it was non-canon. And like, yeah. Well, there were already established to be a bunch of female Spartans, but the way they did that one, where of course she was like rebelling against the system where none of the others did. It's like, seriously? It was bullshit, all of it. Complete bullshit. Our interests diverged, and he had to deal with a lot of his own stuff, and I had to deal with my own stuff, so there's no hard feelings between either one of us. But times changed and all the rest. Let's see. Put gun down, run for... Well, you know, what's funny is Halo Legends got all the proportions wrong for all the characters. Like, they made, like, the hunters, like, the size of King Kong. Not the modern-day King Kong, but the original one. So they're, like, 30 feet tall. It's like, really? Come on. Come on! And then they had, you know, that Edgar Winter Spartan where it had, like, long white hair. It's like, really? That's just terrible. I actually put the song Frankenstein in the review when that character showed up. It's like, who is this person? Why have we never heard of this Spartan before? Why would they have hair that long but be in the military? That doesn't make any sense at all. But whatever. Yeah, they ran really fast in the package. But like, when did that happen? When did the package happen? You're gonna tell me that happened at the outbreak of the war? Bullshit! That did not. Why would they capture Dr. Halsey? How would they know Dr. Halsey even existed? Why would they know that she's important? It's like, come on. Once again, they weren't even trying. But still, you know, if you liked it, good for you. If not, you're intelligent. I mean, never mind. Internet defined shite, indeed. Oh yes, the old keyboard raids. That's actually pretty. That's actually a fairly funny story that now is sadly a bit bittersweet. Yeah, but like a lot of that stuff in Halo already was established. So it's like, why did they diverge so much from it? Once again, I had high hopes. If only Halo could have been like The Expanse. The Expanse TV show follows the novel very closely, or follows the novels very closely, and is absolutely excellent. I started watching that. It's such a good show. I actually like it more than the novel, but if only they could have followed the novels the Halo novels really closely, that would have been awesome, because the Halo novels are very well written. I highly recommend reading them, because it's like, they're really, well, no, the Eric Nyland novels, Halo Reach, Halo First Strike, Ghost of Onyx, I think that's it. There's only 3, but Follow Reach, okay. I never played Halo Reach because it diverged so much from Fall of Reach. That book was damn good and would have made for a much better game than what Reach was. And Halo First Strike, I think, would have made for a much better Halo 2 than the Halo 2 that we got. Because in Halo First Strike, you attack a big space station, all the other Spartans show up, you know, and it follows on directly from Halo Combat Evolved. Really good. Really, I've read that book so many times, it's not even funny. While I was waiting for Halo 2 to come out. Okay, bullshit. They should not have that much splash damage. Fucking Cyber Demon. Let's see. Cooler Master Keyboard. You know, I never actually have replaced my keyboard since I got it at a garage sale years ago. I got a school-level Dell keyboard. Been very happy with it. Doesn't have any LEDs, but, you know, it works as a key device. I just don't bother spending a lot of money on that kind of stuff. Because, like, half the time with those LEDs, you never use them. It's like getting, like, some sort of super fancy mouse. Half the time, you never use any of that stuff. Okay, run, grab the BFG, switch to contact laser, and I'll pay attention to the chat after I've killed the Cyber Demon. Shit. And that's a problem. If you ever get... I'll finish that thought in a second. I think I shot the wall multiple times. If you ever get cornered by this thing, you are dead. Come on, jump to the wall! Ah, damn it. Might just switch back to the, Okay, well, that was a wasted shot, and I got stepped on. Just fucking rocking all over me! This may take more hits, but I'm a little more maneuverable with this thing. And it does give him some pain frames, which is always good. The plasma rifle in this particular mod is very powerful, although I'd like to be able to dual wield like you can in Brutal Doom. I will take my marine steroids and say, wow, fucking Cyber Demon. At least he's an actual boss level character, although we killed each other. I always love that. I always love that, because it's just so bloody annoying. And I'll, of course, half roast myself by shooting the wall, because that is always intelligent. But really, you shouldn't have to sprint in the Halo games, because they're supposed to run at like 30 miles per hour. And they should be able to run and aim because they should have the reflexes to do so in many respects. A PC from 2009? Holy crap, not bad. CRT monitor. You know, CRT monitors, I should never have thrown mine out, because that would have made for a great second monitor, and it was only until last year that I had one, and I don't know how anyone lives without two monitors. Because, like, damn, it's so convenient. So bloody convenient. Alright, where is that key? You're not supposed to go through there, but I can never figure out how to get here legit. So it's just so much easier for me to pop in here, grab that key, and either shoot all these enemies in their little holes, or just run out of here and have them come up. I didn't do it this time. That's weird. That is bizarre, but I don't care. I always love these open areas. Oh crap. I don't like the open areas where there's a shitload of invisible pinkies. So what you do is you run to the top of a hill and burn them all! I'll look at the chat as soon as I don't die. Technically, I didn't die. It's just one of those fatal teleporters for whatever reason. Of course, we have John Romero yet again, making his little cameo. And my phone going off. Okay, we're now out of levels in that particular mod, but it doesn't actually end. It just takes you to the rest of Doom 2. But I'll go ahead and keep playing a little while more. Check the chat. Eventually, though, I want to get a slightly bigger second monitor. Not that this monitor's particularly small, but I could use a slightly bigger one. But then again, there's always the problem with desk space. That's the biggest problem with the CRT, though, is the CRT needs a lot of desk space. I remember back in the day, my grandfather had this CRT. It was like a 20-inch, because like 20-inch back in like 95 was like huge. But it had a tube like all the way out to there. You can't see it, but it was massive. Absolutely massive. And he had one at work that was like even bigger than that. I think he had like a 30-inch monitor at work, but it was, I can't imagine how big the tube was for that thing, that's for sure. Fallout New Vegas. Playing Doom 2016 on a CRT. That is the best way to play it. Fallout 3 isn't bad, but it's definitely not as advanced as New Vegas. But Fallout 3, you know, I actually played that fairly recently. It's a lot simpler if you just want to jump into the game and play it, which is never a bad thing. Whereas New Vegas, to really get into it, you gotta play it for a while. But it is a bit annoying that Bethesda went for a more simpler Fallout 4, though. How does that Fallout 4? I know I kind of shat on Fallout 4. I should give that a second try at some point, but I just haven't. Couldn't be arsed to do it. Because then you gotta mod it and all the rest. Mods are already better than AAA games. I recommend playing Indorol for Skyrim. Far out better. Far out better? A far cry from Skyrim in many respects. Well, story-wise. LGR played Fallout 4 on a really tiny CR. Oh, I remember that. I like that. He got that off of a camcorder, actually. Ah, the CRT. Doomed 1 on CRT. That works. That works. But yeah, Enderall is an absolutely amazing mod all around. I highly recommend giving that a try. The performance isn't very good. You're going to get about maybe 30 frames per second most of the time, but as it's developed more and more, the performance should be a bit better. But the story is vastly better, and I think the base gameplay is a little better as well. So the story is a little more engrossing. Now, that's not to say Skyrim has a bad story. It's just they went for a simple hack-slash story, whereas Enderall is much more cerebral, which is my kind of story. Is it just me, or is this level way harder? Or maybe it's just, maybe I'm just getting tireder. Tireder? Getting more tired. Yeah. Whichever way. Shit. Okay, that was pretty hilarious. Because I was crouched down, and it showed me shrunk down. I imagine you can play Skyrim in 4K with the remastered version. How many times have I beaten Doom? I can't even imagine. I really can't. 100. And it can be hard to get to Skyrim if you come off of Oblivion. For the longest time, I thought Skyrim was vastly inferior. Oh, they gave the K98 a Mannlicher style clip. Not surprising. You know, if I could get into Morrowind's combat, I'd probably like it, but I just can't stand it. I'm actually going to start it up with a different WAD since I finished Scythe X. It's not Scythe X is not a very long WAD at all. Okay, where is Scythe X? Let's see. What would be a good one? Well, now I'll take Project Brutality off and activate Brutal Doom V20B and go ahead and go into. Oh wait, no, I got a better one. I got a better one than that. The Dark 7 WAD. I already did a Let's Play of that, but I will go ahead and do it again anyway because Dark 7 is very good. Another WAD I highly recommend. Yeah, the dice roll combat system has annoyed me to no end. Like, I know there's people that swear by that game, but I can't stand it. I just can't stand that. Bounty hunter, but not really too much. I would have met. Well, once again, it just depends on the various people, I suppose. But a strong female bounty hunter, or a Sing from the prequel trilogy. High Moon Drifter mod. I've not seen it. I'll have to look it up. Skyrim. Enterprise to TNG or DS9. Well, Oblivion is pretty good. Brunettes all the way. Insulting. Yeah, they're not trying to be that historically accurate when it comes to Call of Duty World War II. But you know what? It doesn't matter. It's just a game. And I don't think they're pandering that much. We'll just have to see. I've always been a fan of dark-haired women. What can I say? I just find them to be, I don't know, cooler in many respects. And usually in film, the brunettes always happen to be a bit more intelligent than the blondes half the time. Not to say if you're blonde and female you're stupid, I'm just saying that that's the common media trope. Oh god, I'm gonna have a bloody article in Slate in the next 15 minutes, won't I? See ya, Smuggler's Comedy. But yeah, it's like, that's always been my preference, as could be seen by a previous individual from a different era. But blonde isn't bad either. I just prefer darker hair for some reason. I guess it's because I have dark hair. Which I always thought was black for the longest of time, but it's actually just a very dark brown. And at times a very reddish brown, so there's that. This is actually one of the earliest Doom WADs that I found myself really, really liking. Dark 7 here. Because it really is a well-made mod. Like, you could have sold this on sold this as DLC or something. Because it works damn well. The bearded lady. Red hair is not bad either. I was always a big fan of redheads, although I've never actually met anyone or talked to any female with red hair, though, as it is a fairly rare phenotype. What else it shows? You know, Enterprise isn't a bad show. It's just not very good. And Enterprise could have got. And I think one of the things about Enterprise is season 4 was so good that, you know, if they could have made more, if they could have got to season 7, you know, I think Enterprise would be better remembered than it is today. Because season 4 was really good when they finally got a real writer on the show. I wonder why you actually have to have a good writer to actually make a good show. What the hell was that? Oh, that's the tablet. Got so many bloody devices, I don't even know what they're updating and what they're not. Yep. You never know. Dark hair, pale skin. Like Conan. Well, Conan is said to prefer women of that type, of which I do as well. There we go. You're sporting just a mustache? What I'm sporting is me being too lazy to shave. I prefer to be clean shaven, even though most of the time I'm not. Because every time I shave, I end up cutting my bloody face. So it's like, I'll do it later. And yeah, I didn't do it later. So I don't really like, I don't like having facial hair to begin with, but I don't dislike it enough to always shave. What can I say? It's a bit of a laziness thing. I don't think season 4 felt rushed. I think it actually, they tried to do everything they could do because they knew they were being canceled, and they accomplished a lot. The TNG thing, I don't know if I like that too much. Pure testosterone. Pure West. Discovery. You know, you never know. I don't know if Discovery is going to be good or not. Just have to see. Just have to see. It could be good. And you know, but I do find it funny, though, that they seem to be checking a lot of the boxes so that they'll seem progressive, even though Star Trek's always been progressive. They didn't have to make it seem like it was some sort of big deal. I mean, we've already had Cisco and we've had Janeway, you know, it's like, you can't get much more progressive than either one of those captains. And yet now they're like, well, you know what, like, what if we combined both of those captains? People will be like, mega progressive. It's like, well, why don't you cast a captain that's just, you know, the captain? And don't try to just check a box, you know? Let it evolve naturally. But once again, who knows? Maybe the actress they have for the captain will come into her own and be really good. That's ultimately all that matters in the end. Still, though, being part of the JJ timeline, not surprising, but still it'd be nice if they could have, like, set it in the 25th century, the 26th century, something like that. It could have worked. We will just have to see. Haven't enjoyed it since TNG! How could you not enjoy DS9? Give me your nerd card! You do not deserve a nerd card if you did not like DS9. You must give it to me, and it will be destroyed. Honestly, TNG, I don't like that nearly as much as DS9. TNG, you know, TNG just had too much filler at times. And season 1 and 2, you ever try to show somebody Star Trek TNG? It's like, yes, it's a really great show, but we have to get through the first 2 crappy seasons. And damn, when you're trying to show somebody who's never seen Star Trek TNG, those 2 seasons drag on. I eventually had, the one person I was showing it, I eventually had to ask, you know, like, can we just skip to this one really good episode where Kalar shows up so we don't have to watch more of Dr. fucking Pulaski? I mean, I get that Dr. Pulaski wasn't necessarily that bad, but damn, she was bad. I mean, like, she was such a bitch to Data, too. It's like, oh, your name's Data, right? No, it's Data. That was a pretty good scene, though, even then, but still. It's like, can we move on from Dr. Pulaski and see Kalar? It would have been nice if Kalar could have been like a regular. Or Dr. Solar. Both of those were great characters that showed up once or twice. Best Star Trek movie. The best Star Trek movie is either going to be Wrath of Khan or Star Trek VI. Star Trek VI doesn't get as much love as it should. That is a damn good Star Trek movie. 3 and 4 are okay, but I think Star Trek 2 and 6 rank up there pretty much equally, in my opinion. For me, it's DS9, TOS, TNG, Enterprise, and coming in last, Voyager. The Q episodes are pretty good, but I find Q kind of annoying. I like it. I like seeing the Enterprise or the DS9 crew doing what they do best. Whereas when Q shows up, it's like Q has such a massive power level, and also some of the Q episodes can get really annoying. Like for example, the one where like, now okay, here's the thing. It's a cool episode, but it still annoys me. The one where they're like Robin Hood. It's like, is that really what you want to see from Star Trek? Even if it is an entertaining episode? It's like, can we have, like, space and exploration, not, you know, Robin Hood? I'm just saying. Episode 5 versus A New Hope. A New Hope, I feel, doesn't have filler. I feel like the Yoda scenes are a bit filler-y. Whereas, you know, episode 4 just, it goes from event to event to event and just doesn't slow down. And Data is not my favorite character. My favorite character of all of Star Trek is still Scotty. I just really, really like Scotty as a character. And James Doohan just brings so much to the table as an actor. You know, he is one of my favorites. My second favorite is actually Odo from DS9. Once again, the actor brings so much to the table, and the character is really cool. I definitely see a lot of myself in the Odo character. You know, sort of the outsider kind of character. Says the guy on the internet. The outsider character who, you know, nobody likes, even though I have a fan following. But whatever. Let's see. And yeah, well, Brent Spiner was really good. Don't get me wrong there. I've heard of Trailer Park Boys, but thankfully I've never seen it. And yeah, I know the Yoda scenes were important, but still, I just felt they kind of slowed down a little bit. Spork. Spork is also, there's a lot of good Star Trek characters, but for me, you know, it's going to be Scotty. Scotty number 1, Odo number 2. And Battlefront 2, it looks like it could be good. It could be good. Just have to see. It's an EA game. I can just imagine you got the Starship DLC. You can't fly a Starship without the DLC. No, Starship Pilot License DLC. There you go. Once again, we'll just have to see. I mean, it's hard to say what it will be like. I better save because these levels are long and not necessarily that difficult, but you don't want to die halfway through and have to go all the way back. Dusk. I've heard of it, have not played it. Assuming that's a game. I assume that's a game because I think somebody mentioned that in another stream. I'm a doctor, not a physician. Yeah, McCoy was good. It just wasn't really... McCoy was never really my favorite, though. It was Scotty. But Spork, man. People love Spork. And I can understand why. But he really does just steal the limelight now. The Zachary Quinto Spork... more so than Leonard Nimoy. May he rest in peace, for he indeed had a long life. Spock, it's either fascinating or logical. Pick one already, goddammit. Well, I could survive the second one, okay? Whereas being eaten, not... And honestly, I think the second one would be a little less painful, to be perfectly honest. And like, in the Star Wars universe, you could just get it replaced with robo-testicles. You could. I mean, you can't tell me they can't replace that with like some sort of robot part. Be expensive, but you can get it. Star Wars Dark Empire. Oh, I gotta review that one day. It was the first graphic novel I ever read. And I've not played The Sims 4. I played The Sims 3 a lot. But it was an individual from a different era that actually got me to play Sims at all. I always thought it was just kind of a chick game. Come to find out, well, not really. Sims 3 was good. Did not ever play The Sims 2. SimCity 4 is another game I recommend. You can get that off of GOG. SimCity 4 is a great deal of fun that I thought would be absolutely boring, but wasn't. I would imagine. I've not played Civ 4, but I do own it. But yeah, hearing Leonard Nimoy at all. Yeah, well. No, I don't think of any publisher that would annoy me that much. Yeah, George Takei, he felt very much like a crew member would actually feel like. He put a lot of legitimacy into that show. Let's see what else we got. Lightsaber, Han's blaster. Well, swords are cool, but I'd rather have a phaser gun, phase plasma pulse pistol. The old DL-44. I have a toy of that, but not an actual model or anything. I got that as a kid, actually, along with the Stormtrooper blaster rifle. I own SimCity 3000, but I never played it. I just got that in big box at... I got that from a Craigslist listing. But I never installed it, never played it. I've only played SimCity 4 and The Sims 3. Eventually I should play those other games, but just have not gotten around to it. Cities Skylines. I played that Cities XL once. I got that cheap on a Steam sale, but never really got into it. Shattered Universe. I need to do a full-length review on that. You know, I never actually met the actor who played Old Chekhov, but I was at a con where he was, and my mother met him, because my mother was the person who got me into Star Trek in general, and she watched Star Trek when it came out as a kid, and he said he was really cool. I can't remember his name now. The guy who played Old Chekhov was apparently really cool, but she said he looked really tired. I can imagine. How many cons must have that guy gone to? But what's really sad, though, is Old Chekhov has actually outlived New Chekhov, because the New Chekhov is dead. I mean, he got, I think, like, crushed by his own car. Nasty way to go. Best SimCity game? The only one I ever played was SimCity 4, so I guess that one. Yeah, you can't use Han's Blaster unless you pre-order. You gotta get the special Han's Blaster DLC. I know there's gonna be plenty of DLC characters for Battlefront 2, whereas in the original Battlefront 2, I think there might have been some, but none of the major ones were DLC, like, at all. I tried Tropico 3 because I got it for free. I didn't really think that it was that amazing. And Battie's my favorite. Battie is indeed my favorite. You know, I got Star Trek Invasion for like $1 at a garage sale, but I played it once, thought it was okay, and never went back to it. Star Trek was never about the Starfighters, though. It was more of a Star Wars thing. Star Trek was all about the ships of the line. And that's the thing about Star Wars, though, that has always annoyed me, is they don't have enough capital ships. Because I love collecting ships. But most of the ships that you see in Star Wars are just fighters. And I never was a big fan of the Mon Cals. They're way too bulbousy, in my opinion. Way too bulbousy. Okay, now I'm trying to find that... It's always difficult trying to find that other switch. There's always one switch I miss every time I play this level. Gotta actually pay attention to the game for once. Invasion isn't bad. It's definitely a PS1 game, though, so just be ready for that. And configuring it to work with EPSXE is not an easy prospect either. Because, like, it doesn't... I don't think it works with the default settings. I just remember it crashing a lot. But that was also years ago, so it might not anymore. Okay, now where the hell? Maybe it's over here? That's the one thing about Doom. The only way to figure out where to go is to follow the dead bodies. And sadly, you couldn't do that today because all the dead bodies disappear, so it runs better on a console. Grand strategy games. I've not played many of those, so I couldn't really say either way. Let's see. Watchmen. Okay, you know, I know there's people that love Watchmen. I know there's people that hate Watchmen. I enjoyed Watchmen immensely when I saw it because I had heard of the comic from, of all things, the History Channel, but I'd never read it. I watched the movie just randomly because one of my friends had a DVD of it. I was like, okay, Watchmen doesn't sound bad. Not knowing anything more than, oh yeah, it was a comic that I hadn't read. So I watched it, and I thought it was really, really good. I thought it was probably the best superhero movie I had ever seen. I know that's really controversial now, but having read the comic, I still stand by that. Yeah, the comic's more advanced in many respects, but still, the movie I felt was really good. I thought it really was. So, I've seen the X-Wing miniatures game, but never played it. I have not played it at all. I'm not a big tabletop miniatures guy, but now, Watchmen I felt was really an enjoyable film. One of the best superhero movies of all time, in my opinion. I know everybody likes to say The Dark Knight, but I've seen The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight's good, but it's not as good as Watchmen. And I know they changed up a lot of the plots. I know it was supposed to be a space squid kind of thing that showed up to destroy New York, but, you know, that I can live with, because when I think of memorable moments from that film, I think of a lot of the character moments. The overall special effects and, well, the overall plot being changed, it didn't bother me that much. It did not bother me that much at all. I don't know, maybe that makes me a heretic. Good. A heretic. No, I'm a bit hairy, aren't I? Shadow Man. Never heard of that. X-Men, best comic book movie. See, that I can disagree with. An autograph? I don't even know how I would send it. But, you know, I guess I could figure out how to do that. Pulp characters. I've not seen The Rocketeer, but I've watched The Phantom. I watched that when it came out, actually. I thought it was pretty good. I even watched the remake. And I remember nothing about the remake, but I thought the movie was pretty good. Dark Knight Returns. Yes, I did. I watched that when it came out. Got it on Blu-ray. At first, I didn't like the fact that they did not use Michael Ironside, because in the original Batman the Animated Series, they had a little short set in that particular universe. And Michael Ironside did a great Dark Knight Returns Batman. But, you know, Peter Weller also did a great job as Dark Knight Returns Batman. So, you know, it turned out pretty good, in my opinion. I know The Crow, and I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. So, I imagine it's halfway decent. I've never heard of Shadow Man. I have no idea who Shadow Man is. I don't know anything about it. That's literally the first time I've heard of it now. Blade. Yeah, Blade. Damn good movie all around. I did not watch that when it came out. I saw that first on TV, then I watched it a few months back. Still holds up. Wesley Snipes is great as Blade. Although Blade isn't much of a character, though. Blade, in many respects, is a lot like Judge Dredd in the movie Dredd. He's sort of a... He's kind of like a... Dredd was characterized once to be as sort of a walking gun, which is pretty much what he is. Well, in the movie he is. In the comic he's a little more verbose, but... a little more verbose. But Blade is pretty much just a walking sword. He shows up, he cuts up the vampire, and isn't afraid of anything. But I think that really works, because that's what Blade is supposed to be. Although, the first time I ever saw Blade was actually in Spider-Man the Animated Series, where he had a lightsaber, and he had a special motorcycle. But you know what? That was cool. That was my first exposure to the character Blade. And, you know, and for once, when he got to the big screen, he didn't disappoint me. Yeah, he didn't have the cool motorcycle, but he still had a lot of cool gadgets. My biggest problem with Spider-Man, the original Sam Raimi trilogy, is he wasn't... The Spider-Man in the Sam Raimi trilogy was just too wimpy, in my opinion. I know he's supposed to be some sort of science nerd kind of guy, but... Well, Peter Parker in the animated series was also a science nerd kind of guy, and he did great at it. He also was completely fucking ripped, too. So, yeah, I like that. I like that version of Peter Parker the best by far. Let's see what was that? I'm being killed while I'm trying to read the chat. I think the next superhero movie that comes out that I'm actually going to be interested in is Justice League. After the shittiness of Batman versus Superman, I'm hoping Justice League turns out good. Did not see Wonder Woman. Just didn't have the chance to when it came out. Underworld. I've seen all of them, and yeah, they're pretty good. Kate Beckinsale. Kate Beckinsale. Never have I seen a woman wield 2 9mm look more sexy. I don't think that statement made sense, but yes, she's very good in it. The movies are they're entertaining. Let's just put it that way. They're very entertaining. I did not see Spider-Man Homecoming. I didn't want to. I didn't see Spider-Man Homecoming, nor did I see the Garfield ones either. I've long since given up Spider-Man when it comes to the big screen, because they never get him right, in my opinion. That's the thing about X-Men. For me, X-Men the movie, it just wasn't like X-Men the animated series. Rogue couldn't fly. She wasn't confident. She was just some kind of kid. I get that Wolverine is like the most popular X-Men character ever, but he stole the show way too much. I wanted to see more Cyclops because wearing glasses, if you wear glasses, you pretty much have to love Cyclops because he's one of the few characters that wears glasses. So, yeah, seeing Cyclops is like my favorite X-Man of all time because he wears glasses, you know? And since he wears glasses, it's like, hey, it's like me. Although, I was planning on cosplaying not as him, but as Gambit. Because Gambit's my second favorite X-Man of all time. With Rogue being a third. Because, well, animated series Rogue being a third. Rogue in other timelines is not necessarily as good. But what's funny is, like, even X-Men Evolution, that Rogue was better than the X-Men movie Rogue. Oh, Tobey Maguire. I've not played Wolverine's Revenge, nor have I played that one done by Raven Software either, although I want to. And yeah, Gambit 111. Gambit is awesome. He is a very cool character, especially in the animated series. Although sadly in X-Men Evolution he was a villain, which was somewhat annoying. I don't know if he actually went over to the light side of the mutants. It'd be nice if he did. I just don't remember. There's too much Wolverine in the movies, though. It's like, once again, I get it. I understand. He's marketable, but still. It's just, Wolverine was never my favorite character, though. I thought Wolverine was cool, like anybody would. Especially when voiced by, I think his name was Chris Dodd. I think his name is that. I'm not sure. But when voiced by him, he was good. I do not know what Glenn Danzig looks like, but being 5'3" and burly, yeah, that would work quite well, actually. And yeah, I know Logan's supposed to be great based on Old Man Logan. Still need to check it out. And no, I have not seen Old Man Logan, the movie. But I did see that Wolverine versus the Predator fight on YouTube. And the guy they got to play that Wolverine was absolutely perfect because he was actually short and pretty burly. Now, in all reality, Wolverine could take on the Predators because of the healing factor. Because unless the Predator just detonates his bloody nuke, and it depends on which Wolverine you're talking about. Because there's been Wolverines that have been able to heal from like being turned into a puddle of goo. So it's hard to say. I just keep getting messages all the time. Let me see here. Hunter the Reckoning. Is that something I'm aware of? No, I'm thinking of Jurassic the Hunted. That's something completely different. And if you want to pay money, there is a Patreon. There is a Patreon level where you can pay a certain amount of money a month and I'll review whatever you want. So there is that. Wolverine's Revenge might get a bit frustrating. Well, if I can have save states, I wouldn't be too annoyed at it. X-23. I guess she shows up in that. What's funny is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, X-23 is the female version of Wolverine. If I'm not mistaken. And I know there's the female version of Wolverine in the comics, there's the female version of Wolverine in the X2 movie. X2 I felt was slightly better than X1, but it didn't have Cyclops, so it automatically is worse. Well, actually, these are just messages from various people. Oh, okay, never mind. It's actually messages from my mother. Because I am totally not a internet nerd living in a room. Because we all gotta live somewhere, don't we? X-Force movie. Doom movie. Or Doom movie that's actually halfway decent. Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I used to watch that. I didn't like it, but for some reason, back in the day, whenever there was anything on TV that was remote, back before, you know, I actually had fast internet or YouTube or anything like that, if there was something that was not offensive on TV, offensive in that it didn't annoy me. I would watch it, and I actually watched Aqua Teen Hunger Force because it wasn't that bad to me. But it's not something I would seek out to watch. Because it's one of those shows... It's what I like to call the Adult Swim, you have to be on drugs to actually appreciate this show. Because there's so many drug shows on Adult Swim where it was made by people on drugs for people on drugs. Because if you're high, Aqua Teen Hunger Force must be one of the greatest shows ever made. Because, damn. As opposed to multiple rooms. As opposed to living in multiple places at once. I didn't like Metal Gear Solid because I couldn't enjoy the controls. In half the kitchen, half the living room. Well, I imagine the table... God damn it! Why can't I... Oh, you have to jump on here. I think. I gotta pay attention. This is a very complex jumping puzzle. But yeah, I didn't like the controls that much. When it came to that. It's just... The controls on those, it wasn't very good, and I just couldn't really get into it because I kept dying every couple of feet. Oh. Ugh. 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 Been sitting here for an hour and a half. I think after this level, I'll go ahead and get off. Just because my anterior regions are starting to bother me from sitting in this position for an hour and a half. And this isn't even an uncomfortable chair. Goddamn, no! Although for the longest time, way back in the day, I actually used a recliner. So I had to kind of reach up to reach the desk. Not the most comfortable, but somehow I muddled through. Made my back hurt, but various other bits did not. Smoke with Reed. Every day. And yes, I am looking forward to the new Wolfenstein game. Because, actually, you know, it's funny. Funny you should mention 420... Well, you said 520 plays it, but there's an old radio station in Houston that they had what was called a 420 break. And when I was a kid, I didn't recognize what that actually meant. Because, like, I was too young to really know what any of that was. But I do remember that every time they'd have that, they would play a special novelty song about weed. I don't think you can even do that these days. Sadly, that radio station has long since shuttered its doors. But it was actually sort of a Houston institution for a long time. And said, oh yeah, fall off the train and die. Ah, those were the days. That video is from like 2010. That's 7 years ago. And it's already August of 2017, so it's going to be 8 years ago. Damn, this year went by fast. Like, it really went by fast. I don't know what it is. I guess as you get older, time just sort of speeds up. You know, Old Blood runs shit on PC for some reason, and New Order crashes all the time, but they're both good games. Yeah. Black Mesa. I own it. I played the free version a little bit, but I haven't finished it. Oh, crap. I must hide from the oldest video. Well, it depends on what you consider a first. Have I ever enjoyed ranting about something? I rant about shit all the time, especially in these streams, but yeah, I do. Quite a bit, actually. The oldest video is probably on the channel. It's probably some old book review from like 2009. But the very first video I ever did that actually had me in it was a review of a Game Boy Advance, goddammit, flash card. Shit, didn't get any water. Oh well. Game Boy Advance flash card. Goddammit, fell off the train and... Well, no, I fell into the little area here and died. But, well, it just wouldn't be me riding on a train without falling off of it. But it was not a DS, it was a GBA flash cartridge that I picked up off of Deal Extreme. I had to do a review of it. I had a camera that was sub-potato. It was cabbage. It was a cabbage camera. And, you know, it was the best I had at the time. And it worked well enough. And that was the first one. No script, no nothing. It's no longer on the internet. No longer on the internet because the channel it was on has long since been deleted. Long since been deleted. And yeah, Where Eagles Dare is pretty much Wolfenstein the movie. I mean, hell, Clint Eastwood might as well have just been playing BJ Blazkowicz. Although, one thing I find interesting, though, okay, I like Clint Eastwood well enough, but I don't think he's that amazing of an actor. He never really has that many lines when he's on screen. And I'd actually go as far to say Arnie is more of a character actor than... Well, Arnie is a character actor in general, but I think Arnie's a better actor because he actually will, you know, talk and emote, whereas Clint is just sort of like, I'm Clint Eastwood, I'm very grim, get off my lawn. You know, it's like he barely does anything in his movies. Not Gran Turismo, Gran Torino was one where he actually, you know, emotes and was very good in it. And yeah, dual wields MP40s. Hell yeah. 2007. 2009. Even that's a long time ago. But yeah, it's like... Well, reviewing Turok the Dinosaur Hunter is not an easy thing to do, just because it's such a long game. And depending on which version you play, not an easy game to get footage for. But 2007, that was a decade ago. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? 10 goddamn years. There are people watching this who are like 2 or less, or weren't even born. Although, 10 years ago, 2007 is it? I guess it'd be like super millennials now, or Generation Z. Oh, that's a grenade. Somewhere. Well, that's an interesting Christmas movie, but it works. And Squiggles, you did indeed make it. Doom Guy or Guts from Berserk? Well, that depends. If Doom Guy has the Berserk pack, then theoretically he will be Berserk enough to stand a chance. If he doesn't, well, he's probably going to get beaten up. And no, not in real life. I honestly thought that said you didn't know how to use traps, which would be very strange. And yes, I am going to review Wolfenstein when it comes out. Maybe like a couple weeks after. I have played Area 51 on the PS2. And I have it for PC, but it doesn't work. Well, making videos is not easy. Not easy at all. Even with modern day technological innovations that we all take for granted. Like cameras that run off SD cards. I'm glad that when I finally started actually using a real camera, that such a thing existed, because I can't imagine having to use tape and trying to keep all that shit synced up. Because, damn. Well, Die Hard is a good Christmas movie along with Batman Returns. Ah, The Guns of Navarone. That's another classic. I think that's the one with Harrison, if I'm not mistaken. Or that could be Force 10 from Navarone. I can't remember. It's one or the other. Because I once had a dream where I teamed up with John McClane and fought terrorists. And I used that Winchester 410 shotgun. It was a lever-action shotgun they made back, I think, in 05. That with a scope on it. I can't imagine how much the thing has to be now. I can't imagine they made that many of them back then either. And editing, oh man. No, I do sort of have a stream schedule if nothing interferes. And yes, I very much have a day job. Don't quit your day job, indeed. Whatever that is. The stream schedule is, in theory, every Wednesday and Friday. For right now. Until I either don't have time for it, or something comes up, or I can actually put out a video on Friday. Right now I'm still dealing with the aftermath of a death in the family, so there's not going to be any reviews for like this week or next. I'd like to try to get it to where I could get 2 streams out, because I think I'm not going to do any Let's Plays for a while, so I might just do this. Because this is a lot easier and a lot more, well, quite frankly, more enjoyable than a Let's Play. College. Now see, so long as you go to a real college and not like Greenville or Berkeley, college should be an enjoyable experience. I enjoyed my time at college, but then again, I went to a real college. Damn Houston State University was a great college indeed. Blood, yeah. Blood or System Shock 2? I've not played System Shock 2 yet. Well, I haven't finished it, but I have played it. I have played Blood, but I haven't finished it, and it's very hard to record Blood, because there's no, there is no source port for that. Goddamn mites. Oh yeah, I remember that was free, but I already had it, because I got it on a Steam sale. I got it on a Steam sale, I should say. And from what little I played, it was pretty good. I was going to do a Let's Play of that, but the person I was playing it with, well actually no, there was nothing wrong with the person I was playing it with. It was just, when I was playing it, we both kept reading the little text logs. That kind of slowed the whole thing down to a crawl. I was like, okay, you know, maybe we should play it first, then Let's Play it. And then just time constraints got in the way, as they often do. Funniest video game title, I never thought of that. I'd have to look. Stalin versus Martians. You know, if there's one person in the world that's good at killing, it's Stalin. Well, of course, then again, he's good at ordering other people to kill people. Community college. Well, that's where I started. I went to a college that now has been renamed. I did that, got the basics out of the way. It's way cheaper that way. So, and then went to the four-year university later. It's always good to save money and not have a shitload of money in debt. Although that the last 2 years did cost a bit of money, like a lot of money. Blood GDX, huh? Maybe that's new. I've never seen that. And Hogan's Heroes. I used to watch that on TV, if not every night. It came on like channel 50 something. This is before my mother and I were able to get cable. It came on some channel that I can't remember what it is. Maybe it was like TBS, TBN, or something like that. It was free, and they would show reruns of that. I'd watch that. A very good show, a very classic show, to say the least. And I made one DoomWad once, years upon years ago. It wasn't very good, and stuff got in the way, and I wasn't able to actually pursue that. So I will look at GDX. Blood GDX. I don't have. I'm actually going to use a pen and write that down. I actually, for once, have a piece of paper. Paper and pen. What a novel concept! It doesn't even take batteries. Let's see, where is it? Jason Owens. I have no idea who that is. I missed most of that conversation because I was busy writing something down on a piece of paper. Just imagine if I had a pencil. That'd be really low tech. I wonder what that voice is from. Security team to Sector 5F. Oh, I remember this level. This one's a bit more maze-like than I like. And I'm already out of ammo. I'm just using the bloody revolver. But it's a very powerful revolver. Most powerful handgun in the world. Which was technically the 454 Casull, but it was not actually chambered in any gun until years later. You have a friend you think is an absolute idiot? Honestly, I don't have that many friends, and so no, not really. Yeah, there's that where I spent $100,000 to develop a space pen. A space pen?! But then you could use a pencil. But actually, here's the interesting thing, though, here's the interesting part about that story, though. The space pen actually wasn't that bad of an idea. The pencil, apparently, had a lot of graphite flakes. And that was able to... that could have messed up some of the instrumentation. So, yeah. But I've never had, like, that many friends. So, no, I never had people that I just thought were an absolute idiot. I know I've had friends that have acted like an absolute idiot once or twice. I don't know, I've acted like an absolute idiot on occasion. Well, maybe more than one or two occasions. But we all have times where we make fools of ourselves. We just gotta try not to do it all that often. Let's see. Pencil. The pencil would work, but you don't want that graphite fucking up the instruments. Especially when you're in space, where anything and everything can go... anything and everything can go explosively wrong. God damn it, I need ammo. I'm supposed to use harsh language. I find it funny that when I said that, he literally said something. A handful of vertebrae and a handful of bad. Not sure if that statement makes sense, but you know what? I'll go with it. Shit, shoot him! At least I got some good AR ammo. Space pin. Hey, you know, you gotta have a space pin. Otherwise, how you can write down your space calculations? You know, Doom... I don't think anymore, but back in the day, Doom and Wolfenstein could potentially have been part of the same universe. I don't think it could now, because you would have seen some mention of it in Doom 2016. I think Doom and Quake at one time could have been a part of the same universe for one major reason, although I don't think the writers actually really paid much attention to it. In the Doom 3 novelization, Doom Guy got a name, and it was John Kane. But then you had Matthew Kane in Quake 4, and since Matthew Kane is a character in the future, one would think that John Kane was like his great-grandfather or something like that. So it's like, it could have been, ooh, that was painful. So it's hard to say. I don't think they are now, though. Press the shiny button. It must be pressed. What, did Dee Dee show up now? Let's see, what time is it? 1:54. Okay, I will finish this level and then call it a day. Because my anterior regions are starting to bother me from sitting for so long. I don't think Quake 1... Well, Quake 2, you gotta remember, wasn't supposed to be part of the Quake 1 universe. id Software mentioned that they couldn't find a better name than Quake 2. And so they just called it Quake 2. Quake 1 could have been... Actually, you know what's funny? Now that I think of it, they all kind of got combined together in Quake 3 Arena, where all like the heroes from the id Software games showed up at the Arena Eternal, so, well, there's that. And really, when you think about it, like, Quake 3 Arena is technically the Super Smash Brothers of the first-person shooter genre, because it has, like, all the famous characters, and all the famous characters are pretty much made by id. Although, now that I think of it, there's kind of the omission of BJ. He didn't show up in that. I don't know, maybe they didn't own the rights to his character or something. Although I know BJ's showing up in Quake Champions, which I think is really quite cool. Let's see, Quake 2 copies. If I ever do make go see Alien Covenant, I will make a video. I shall, at some point. And yeah, there is the Strong logo in Quake 1, but it doesn't make any sense for, you know, the space cyborgs to be in league with Space Cthulhu. It doesn't make much sense to me. Although, now that I think of it, there is that giant brain in Quake 4, so possibly the giant brain is one of the Space Cthulhu, might be a Space Cthulhu, maybe, but I don't know, that's still kind of reaching. Still kind of reaching. He was? I don't remember that. I do not remember that. I remember there was like a Doom Guy palette swap called Phobos, and there was a female Doom Guy, Doom Guy, named Crash, who is supposed to be Doom Guy's DI, which I thought was quite cool back then. Who says there aren't female characters in gaming? It'd be nice if Crash could have got a game. See you, Ratchet and Sly. Let's see where we go. Yeah, Crash was cool. One day, I'm going to do a review of a random FPS that I have not actually played since I rented it on the Xbox. And that is, of course, Mace Griffin Bounty Hunter. That is a game I think no one's ever heard of. I finally tracked down a PC copy, and in theory it works. And I will review that game, just because it is a game that has been so forgotten, and it's really not that bad. At least the Xbox version wasn't. So, yeah, it's like, it's one of those games that no one remembers that wasn't even absolutely horrendous. It was from that era of FPS and games in general where you could have a game completely fly under everyone's radar and and it just gets forgotten for years. And there's another game I need to review that was an Xbox exclusive actually, called Brute Force. that they really tried to market as like the next Halo, even though it wasn't. It was definitely a strange game. A very strange third-person shooter that no one really remembers. I don't think we're going to see a sequel of that, that's for sure. Oh yeah, there was the female character in Turok. I forgot all about that. The Doomslayer or the Daedra. Well, Doomslayer should be able to kick Mehrunes Dagon's ass. I'd say so. I should say so. Hell, they even wrote a book for Brute Force. I don't think Brute Force was that bad. It definitely had multiple characters that you could play as, which wasn't bad. It was cool, but the whole game just felt a little different. But that wasn't a bad thing. They weren't afraid to innovate when that game came out. Now everything's just kind of the same old generic slop you usually get, which, you know, sometimes generic slop isn't bad. Sometimes. Turok 2 can go on over long, but I haven't really played Turok 3. Turok 1, though, I played Turok 2 first. I just felt like Turok 1, I kind of like the design of it a little more than Turok 2. Kind of. I played Warcraft 1 once. I actually played it on DOS. Oh, crap. There we go. I'm in a meeting. I'll call her back later. And yes, that actually is the TMNT theme from the NES. Oh god. Well, I guess I will call the stream to a close. I'm GeneralLotz, and I'll be back on yet again.